Think Tech Wednesday on the Think Tech radio series on AM 760 KGU, broadcasting across the islands and raising public awareness in Hawaii. Now here's your host, Jay Five.
Okay, we're back. We're here. We're live. This is Think Tech Energy, having an energetic experience here on Wednesday. We got a lot of people in the room. We got Pete Devlin from the Department of Energy in Washington, D.C. We got Mitch Ewan from HNEI. Say hello, Mitch.
Hello. Aloha.
Say hello, Pete.
Aloha.
Okay, and we got a special guest for our Negawatt moment. We have Lisa Harmon from Hawaii Energy. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jay.
Thank you all for coming to the show. So first I want to just say what this show is generally about, and then we'll go to our special Negawatt moment. You know, we have a hydrogen initiative here in Hawaii. It's called, what, H2I.
Correct. Hawaii Hydrogen Initiative.
And it's launched by a group of organizations made up of General Motors, Department of Defense, the DOD represented here today, the state of Hawaii. I guess you represent the state of Hawaii, Mitch?
On your show, yes.
Okay, Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, and other partners with a mission to support Hawaii's transformation to clean hydrogen infrastructure, hydrogen being one of the renewables, right? Key goals include demonstrating innovation by hydrogen technologies. We're going to learn more about that today. Deploying projects with the DOD and industry partners through third-party financing. We talk about the business aspects, to buy power, to buy hydrogen, to set the stage, to build the workforce and special energy possibilities in the future. So that's our main show. Okay, we're going to get, because actually Pete is here from Washington. We only have him for a moment. We got to get him while we can get him. All right, it's really important. But first, we have a regular feature at this point in time. It's the Negawatt moment. And today, in lieu of Ray Starling, who runs Hawaii Energy, am I right about that?
Yes, he does.
We have Lisa Harmon, who runs Ray Starling. So Lisa, what do you got today for the Nanowatt moment?
Well, Jay,
Did I say that Negawatt moment?
You've got a great name, the Negawatt moment. And I'm a business program specialist with Hawaii Energy. We are the ratepayer-funded conservation and efficiency program for Hawaii, Honolulu, and Maui counties, and I help businesses save electricity. We provide many types of financial incentives for the installation of energy-saving equipment and technology. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about submetering.
Okay, we need to know about that.
Yes, you do. It's important because if
Is it a threat or a benefit?
It's a benefit to everybody at the property with their common area maintenance fees.
Okay.
And if they are a master meter condominium or commercial building, there is rising electricity costs. So a master meter is one where there's only one meter to serve everybody on the property. And unfortunately, that does not foster conservation. So we offer...
Because everybody takes advantage of it. Figure the other guy's going to pay, and they don't have to be efficient at all.
Well, they have the it's included mentality, so why should I care if I run my air conditioning when
it sounds like entitlement of a kind.
Well, we want to help those properties save money. So when you put a sub-meter and each resident therefore pays their own bill, they are more aware of their behavioral use with regard to electricity.
How does it work?
Well, they get some technology in to put a meter on every single unit. It goes to a central data collection system. The bill is read, and each resident receives a monthly bill for their electricity use.
So it's an incentive thing. So if I have the meter and I am careful and efficient and save energy and use CFLs and all that stuff, then I get the benefit. Instead of having the condominium get the benefit, you know, it's sort of in an averaged way, right? Is that what happens?
Right. Well, the whole property benefits because then everybody is more aware of their consumption.
It's all psychology, isn't it?
Well, it's a behavior-based incentive change.
Okay.
So we're going to give you $150 towards the cost of this per tenant meter, sub-meter, towards the cost of this project. When everybody's responsible for saving or for paying their own bill, then maybe they will change to CFLs, check their refrigerator, see if they can get a more
think that would work.
efficient
That would
model.
work because you'd have a direct benefit out of doing that.
That's
So
right.
what you say 150? What about the rest of it? I have to pay that out of my own pocket?
It comes out of the common area, the association fees. They have a
Okay,
revenue fund.
so actually I don't have to pay anything in order to get this installed. And if when it comes up at the board of directors at a meeting of the Association of Owners, I should vote for that, shouldn't I?
of course you should, but it's up to the board how they pay for that. And
Well,
it's
we got to
usually
talk
out
to
of
the
their-
board. Sometimes these boards need to be, guided,
or influenced greatly.
So what kind of success are you having with this program?
Well, we've seen savings anywhere from 15 to 30%. Once the bill is shifted onto the resident, the usage begins to drop.
Oh, that's very good.
About
So how many
30%.
condos have gone this way so far, or is it too new to say?
Well, over the last 18 months, 8 properties have installed submetering. We've got 15 more coming down the pike, and we have incentive money available to help other properties. So if they're interested, they can give me a call at Hawaii Energy, 839-8880.
So repeat it so that the people who didn't write it down while they were driving their cars. God.
Okay, they can call me at Hawaii Energy, and our number is 839-8880 to find out more information, how it can specifically apply to their property.
So you can help an individual owner, and you can help an individual director on a board that may be listening to this discussion right now.
Correct.
And you can show them the way so that they can do the submetering for the building. And thus, it's not only incentivizing individuals by having a cumulative incentivization all around the building, you're incentivizing the whole building. And as a result, the whole building will use less energy, right? Everybody benefits.
Correct. And I can come out and we offer other commercial incentives that the building can benefit from. Parking garage lights, VFDs on their domestic water pump boosters. There's lots of ways that the entire property can save in the common areas as well as the residential spaces.
Well, that's a great service you provide. You come to the directors' meetings. If I'm a director, I can call you, come down, and we'll put you on the agenda, and you can speak, and you can meet our directors and tell them what for,
That's right. That's right. I'll tell them everything they wanted to know about submetering.
Okay.
And Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Hawaii Energy, with, Ray Starling sometimes, but today Lisa Harmon. Lisa, I want to say you did a great job today instead of Ray. We want you to come back. Tell him we approve of everything you said and did, and we really like your style, okay?
Well, I appreciate you having me here, Jay, and letting me spread this great message about Hawaii Energy and what we're doing to help people in Hawaii with the rising electricity costs.
Really important. Thanks a lot, Lisa Harmon.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to the main part of the show now. Everybody's applauding for you, Lisa. They're all making silent.
Oh,
In fact, it's not so silent. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
One of those little machines, Jay.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Lisa is going to go back and do some efficiency at Hawaii Energy, and we're going to talk to Pete Devlin and also Mitch Ewan about hydrogen in Hawaii and fuel cells. And we styled this show, the basic title is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We always called it that. That's the name on Wednesdays. But tonight we're going to say Washington also cares about fuel cells in Hawaii. And the reason is that Pete Devlin lives in Washington. He lives with the federal government. And, we want to know him better because we want to know the federal government better. Let me say that everybody in Hawaii should know the federal government. Since Dan Inouye passed, we need to know the federal government better.
Very good.
So tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm what we call a deployment program manager, and what we try to do is start technology demonstrations and deployments that haven't been done before and show a value proposition for the user, either economic or societal or what have you. And in so doing, try to get others to do it without federal government intervention, basically.
Okay, what's your training? Did you train in business? Did you train in science, technology?
Yeah.
What?
Well, years ago, I trained in engineering.
Let the record reflect
material-
he's not that young. Okay?
and
But he looks young.
material science and business. So engineering, material science, and business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what
That
has
was
your
like
career been
30.
like?
Well, I've been in advanced technologies and advanced energy technologies for 35 years. Yeah. So
All in government, or was
no,
it in industry too?
12 years in industry, in petrochemical industry, and then the rest in government. So.
And how did you wind up in the Department of Energy? I mean, what made you go there?
Well, they had some pretty good job opportunities, and I was just getting married, and I wouldn't have to travel as much. So,
See what happened.
so yeah, I was thinking I'd be there for 5 years, and I stayed for over 20 now. So
That's great.
yeah.
And how did you get into the hydrogen thing, the deployment of fuel cell technology?
Yeah, well, for years we worked on more efficient, or I did in my career, worked on more efficient combustion engines, and then I became the combustion engine R&D guy with this fuel cell thing as kind of a side task. And it eventually started to become a full-time job, and we formed a program, and I came on to fuel cells. That was about 12 years ago.
That's
Yeah.
a long time in
Yeah.
terms of fuel cells. I mean, fuel cells. We only became aware of them here with what was the name of that company, Mitch? The one that went public. Hoku
Scientific.
Hawaii had this
Oh,
company.
okay.
I mean, still has this company,
Yeah.
Hoku Scientific. I think they call it Hoku
Well, they had
Solar
two
now.
divisions,
Yeah. We became, me and my friends became aware of fuel cells because those guys were doing fuel cells. They were designing them, manufacturing them, and and they went public on that
Oh, great.
basis.
Great, great.
Later they did a pivot, but
Uh-huh.
but at least at the beginning they made us all aware of fuel cells.
That's great.
So so tell us what do you, against your wishes, do you now travel all over the place in order
Not-
to deploy?
Yeah, not too much. We've got people out in the field like Mitch. This week we're meeting on the H2I group, and so I wanted to come out and participate in that. And also a hydrogen safety panel is being held here. So got a couple reasons to be out here this week. But in general, rely on people at locations to carry the ball for us.
Okay, so the top-down news for us is actually, Pete, that you're here.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said before, we always like to see Washington, especially the Department of Energy in Washington, come here because it makes us feel that Washington cares about our initiative. And we need that. We need the nod. We got to feel that somebody out there likes us. And I think right now, KGU likes us because it wants to have a station break. So we're going to see everybody at the other side of the break. Let's take a minute here.
All right.
You're listening to Think Tech
How
Radio.
many listeners are there on this
Wednesday
station?
with your host, Jay
6.
Fidel, offended by attorneys at law.
Including us.
Oh, there's 3 more?
Okay, we're back. This is Think Tech Live here on Wednesday, Energy Wednesday, Hawaii, the state of energy. We're talking about the fact that Washington also cares about fuel cells in Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidel of Think Tech. We got Pete Devlin of the DOE, the U.S. DOE, Fuel Cell Technology Office Deployment Program Manager, and for short they call him FCTODP. There's an acronym for you.
There you go.
And we got Mitch Ewan from HNEI, Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, right here, mostly on Ward Avenue, where they have all kinds of incredible fuel cell experiments and laboratory.
Cook Street.
Cook Street.
Yeah.
Cook Street. Cook Street at the back end of the Hawaiian Electric plant there
Correct.
on Ward Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, I got there through Ward Avenue, so
Okay.
for me,
That's
sorry,
fine.
it's
That's
Ward
fine,
Avenue.
yeah.
Okay. But it's right here downtown. And these guys are working together, and what I'm aiming to find out is exactly what the project is. So you're here now, Pete, and you're checking up on Hawaii, trying to help Hawaii. Maybe bring some money. You have a suitcase of money for us? We like that.
Yeah, I wish. I'll explain a couple things. First, Mitch and I have been working on a project with the Navy on the Big Island for about 1.5 years now to take renewable energy and use it to make hydrogen for transportation. And we're getting ready to start that up. Basically, geothermal will be converted to hydrogen via water electrolysis. We use the hydrogen for buses, both at the National Park, Volcano National Park, and at the Mass Transit Authority. So this is a demonstration, hopefully to the whole country and for that matter, globally, that shows that wind or geothermal, in this case, that can't be used, can't be dispatched to load centers for whatever reason, it's the middle of the night or you got too much online or something, could be still a valuable product, and in so doing, it could help enable fuel cells and hydrogen to be, used initially on these different applications. So we've been working on that for a while. Navy's doing a lithium titanate battery demonstration using excess wind. We're using excess geothermal, and it makes for a really nice collaboration with the state of Hawaii, with the Navy, with the Department of Energy, and others.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the thing we heard about in the Big Island.
Yeah.
With the Puna
Puna geothermal.
BGV.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, The other thing we got going, and that's why I'm here this week, is this H2I initiative, Hawaii Hydrogen Initiative, and we've got a number of big industry players, General Motors and HECO and Fuel Cell Energy, and we've got DOE, DOD, all looking at different ways to use fuel cells in different operations, DOD and commercial, for both power and for fuel for vehicles. So we've got the 16 GM Equinox vehicles driving around in the bases right now.
I drove in one, didn't I? Didn't
Yeah,
I
you
drive
did.
in
Yeah,
one?
we took you for a test drive.
You weren't here, but these guys did a public spectacular thing.
Oh yeah, I was here a year
Brian
ago.
Schatz was there before he got
Yep.
elevated and
It was to
everything.
the Senate, yeah.
Yeah, this last year I was here. Yeah.
Oh, you were here.
And
Okay.
I met the late
How come
great.
you didn't say hello?
Sorry,
Never mind.
I didn't know you. The late great Senator Daniel Inouye at that. It was a very nice ceremony and it was a great kickoff.
So we drove in those cars.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of interest in Hawaii for fuel cells and fuel cell vehicles, and it's a great test bed because it's an island and you guys pay a very high cost for energy. So these new technologies cost more than, the stuff that's already in play, coal plants and even natural gas plants that make power. And so what we need is a place that we can test at a commercial scale level and make sure that everything's going to work and everybody knows what they need to do to make it work so that we can replicate that on the mainland. Okay,
Interesting. So we become a laboratory for the whole country. Is that
Yeah,
what's happening?
pretty much.
Tell them again because they need to know that.
Okay, yeah, so Hawaii is a great laboratory, if you will, for commercial scale demonstration and deployment. And that's why we think it's such a good place to try out some ideas, even fuel cell vehicles. General Motors is very interested in an initial launch in Hawaii for their first commercial launch of fuel cell vehicles. So it's pretty exciting. We're here this week to look at how we can have distributed generation using fuel cells actually help with grid management, grid power.
As a storage device.
And yeah, and also as for DoD purposes, as a way for energy security or resilience in the case of outages. And in addition, this is the one I really like, and that is a high-temperature stationary fuel cell for power is also capable of making hydrogen fuel for vehicles. So a fuel cell makes fuel for fuel cells.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
universal. It's like type O. Type O, right?
So, that takes care of a lot of problems that we deal with in terms of economic feasibility. If you had a handful of fuel cell vehicles spread around Oahu, we'd have to put out a $1 million a copy fueling system everywhere you want to fill up. Well, if there's only a few hundred of them around, you're never going to get your money back, right? But if you start with combined heat and power and you're getting that value proposition out of the power, now you don't have any chance of stranded capital. And if you can make some fuel in that power system, so much the better. Sorry.
Okay, well, this is all very exciting, and we talked about this with Mitch, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Correct, yes.
So he's not unaware of what you're talking about. But let me ask you, so far, Mitch, how are we doing here? Do you agree with this discussion?
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
agree with Pete? I mean,
Yes,
if there's
I do.
anything you don't agree on, I'd like you to say so.
If we can leverage a capital asset like this and get like 3 swings at the ball instead of just one, that's got to be good.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? The whole thing about developing clean energy, it's a rough road. One, because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we saw that in DOE with those companies that failed. And I don't know if that's the reason the department head guy left, Chu, was it?
Yeah.
Or not. But, certainly that was a political ball in play there during the election. And I think what people don't understand is we're going to have entrepreneurs who fail in this. We're going to have programs that are expensive. New technology always costs money. Renewables are, it's an adventure. We're at the frontier with this kind of stuff. And so they have to understand it doesn't happen for free. There's no no deity that comes down and pays the bill. We all have to somehow pay the bill.
Right.
But we're happy that the federal government's doing it, because if the federal government does it, then, presumably that would offset some of the expense the state would have to incur
Right.
to do its own, laboratory experience. And so we're really happy that you're our partner in this.
Well, I'd like to ask Pete to describe a recent, not recent, it's been ongoing, but a great success story of how his department funded some initial tech eval, and now industry is actually taking the ball themselves and running it, and basically Pete's handed it off to them.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Yeah, let's talk about
forklift
that.
trucks and
Okay.
material handling.
Yeah, for years and years, I've been on this program for 12 years. We worked in the laboratory to come up with cheaper and more durable ways to make fuel cells. So there's been a lot of effort, and a lot of smart people all over the country have contributed, so that we've got a lot cheaper fuel cell now than we've ever had, and we've got durability that could even match today's combustion engine vehicles. So one of the things we wanted to do was try them out in something easier than a road vehicle, and the one that was most promising through an analysis done by Patel Memorial Institute was industrial trucks. First of all, you just have one refueling area, so you don't have to have them spread all over the place. And also, the alternative is battery electric. Well, battery electric truck, industrial truck, you have to take it off charge. They often start to lose some performance capability before you're finished your shift. And so this is a productivity enhancer, even though the initial cost of the fuel cell powered lift truck is higher. So you can see a value proposition through the operation of these devices, or this technology, instead of the first cost. Okay, so we started with funding through Recovery Act, some 400 of these, and
All over the country?
All over the country. 50-50 cost share with industry, and the industries that stepped up were the industries where moving cargo around very quickly is essential to their business. Places like food distributors, mail or cargo carriers,
Sure,
like
and they
FedEx.
have one location to fuel, to do maintenance, all that.
Right,
It's
right.
a fleet situation.
It's a fleet
And
situation.
so you get economies of scale.
Exactly. So we did that, and we published it. We've got a lot of data on our website if you want to look it over, including cost comparisons. And as a result, over 5,000 additional lift trucks have been deployed or are on order without any DOE help. So that's the game we're playing here, is put a little bit of money and show the value
Yeah.
proposition, get the word out to everybody, and have industry take over.
That is the best model of all, isn't it?
Yep.
It's seed money is what happens.
Absolutely.
And it's a ripple effect and all.
Yeah.
Well, but one thing, and Mitch and I talked about this when he was here last time. I'm interested if you've changed your mind already.
Right.
But that is that hydrogen is like it's the magic bullet. I mean, it's undiscovered. So we've been focusing, for example, on electric cars, but we haven't really built the hydrogen car into that, the fuel cell car into that. And maybe, I mean, the way it works in clean energy, you have technologies competing, and they move at different speeds, and the technological advances, discoveries may happen differently for different kinds of technologies. And here, hydrogen, it could be coming right out, ahead of electric cars. And maybe in the next break, and after this break, in the next quarter of the show, we can talk about how the Department of Energy deals with competing technologies, and whether you want to support both of them or one of them, or enhance one and drop the other. Let's talk about that right
Okay.
after this break. Okay, that's Pete Devlin you hear, and Mitch Ewan. I'm Jay Fidel. We'll be right back. Okay, thanks. I was just saying, well, let's come back. This is Jay Fidel on Think Tech. We're talking Wednesday. That means energy. Today we have the prestige of having Pete Devlin of the Department of Energy in our studio. He's the Fuel Cell Technology Office Deployment Program Manager with the U.S. Department of Energy. And he's right here with us today. We are delighted. This is Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and we call the show Washington Also Cares About Fuel Cells in Hawaii. And before the break, we were exploring this whole idea of of how you adopt, how you give the nod to a given technology. And the example would be, not that it's the only example, electric cars versus fuel cell cars. So how do you make that choice? This is heavy policy, isn't it?
Well, you know, it's not really a choice. A fuel cell electric vehicle is an electric vehicle, and it relies heavily on the battery. They work together. A fuel cell takes a gas and turns it into electricity. Well, it needs to store, at least store that electricity, if not use the power directly from the battery. So the battery electric vehicles are really helping fuel cell electric vehicles become a reality. All the things that you need for a fuel cell electric vehicle, you need for an electric vehicle. So drivetrains and you know, control systems and battery technologies are all part of the mix. They really do go hand in hand. Fuel cells would be the next step in transitioning to an all-electric vehicle.
So there's a synergy there.
Absolutely.
So you have, on the one hand, you have the guys making the pure electric vehicles,
Right.
and doing the research. On the other hand, you have the people like Mitch over here doing hydrogen fuel cells.
Right.
And so the trick, and maybe you're doing this already, I'd be interested in knowing, is that you got to coordinate that. You got to make them talk to each other. You got to make sure that what is learned in one area of the technology is used in the other area, so we don't lose
absolutely.
ground. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, we're doing a little bit of testing on production electric vehicles that want to extend their range. An electric vehicle typically has a 100-mile range. Well, if it's a truck or some kind of a service vehicle, you want to go further, right? So you put a small fuel cell on that electric vehicle, and it recharges the battery as you go, and you get more range. So we've got a number of projects on that in trucks where we're helping out the electric vehicle. And ultimately, we're hoping that automotive engineers and industry people will convert that into production battery fuel cell vehicles.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. So which one do you think is going to survive and prevail?
What do you mean, which one?
Electric, pure electric, or hydrogen fuel cell?
Well, it's hard to say. We've got a fairly robust battery electric research program in DOE as well, and they're looking at it from all angles. All the parts you need to make it to work and to go further and to hold more energy, they're working on. So if they have a breakthrough in some part of their research, you know, everybody benefits from an electric vehicle that goes farther and lasts longer. If not, fuel cells can help electric vehicles, and fuel cells can be used in tandem with battery electric technologies. So we win either way.
Yeah, oh, no, okay, but you're in touch with it, and you're in touch with both sides of the equation. You know, and you know, I think the market, it's not only the technology that determines who gets the center of the stage, it's the market. For example, what did I read in today's Civil Beat, I think it was, that Better Place, which used to have Better Place, you know, out of Israel, they used to have 200 employees here. Now they're finished. They closed the office.
Yeah.
And they're retrenching to Denmark and Israel, where they say the market's better. There must be a lot of factors going on to make them do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Shai Agassi, the guy who created the company, no longer with the company. How do you like that? So what it tells you is maybe the model that they were working on, you know, the pure electric model, and the switch battery design that they made in Japan, maybe that wasn't the real solution. Maybe what they're saying is fuel cells. Fuel cells.
Yeah, even in the fuel cell technology area, it's a very dynamic area. We see a lot of companies get bought out, get knocked out, get reformed, and people that worked here, work there, and the next week. It's a very, very dynamic area, advanced energy technologies in general. So you see a lot of people moving around and reforming to try to get a business going. So, you know, I'm not surprised that that's happening, and it happens in fuel cells too and other advanced technologies. It's just the nature of
Sure, but it must
the
make
industry.
your job interesting, because you know what they say about real estate. It's not about land, it's about relationships.
Right.
And so what do they say about clean energy? It's not about the technology, it's about relationships.
Well, it is important. I mean, for sure. You know, who you work with. We've got a lot of champions here in Hawaii, which makes my job easier. You don't want to go into an area that a lot of people in the state government and industry don't really know what you're doing and don't like it. And Hawaii is very friendly to fuel cells. It's always refreshing to come here because you get so much support here. And that's what it takes to break through in a new technology. You got to have everybody work in the same direction.
Well, the thing about fuel cells and hydrogen in general, again, this is, I think, something we should discuss at this point in the show, so we can make sure to cover it, is that, and you alluded to this earlier, is that it's a universal donor kind of system. And, you know, when we recently had, Mitch and I stood together on the Energy Policy Forum, you know, and we recently put a briefing together for the legislature, which was just beginning at the time. And one of the big gaping problems is transportation. We most of the time, 90% of the time, we've been talking about generating, you know, power to go on the transmission lines and into your home or business. We haven't really, and all the solutions and clean energy possibilities on that, but we haven't really spent that much time on transportation. And there are no great solutions, you know, on transportation. So that's why hydrogen is so important, because it's a natural, like Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, it's a natural for transportation.
Yeah, we can make hydrogen from a variety of our renewable energy sources: wind, solar, geothermal, just to name a few, and in the future, hopefully, wave energy. Although that's, you know, still a little ways out there. But all of these energy sources, that's the beauty about hydrogen, and biomass can be used to produce hydrogen, which then gets just distributed through a common infrastructure. So we just have to get the sources right, make the hydrogen, and then we can distribute it with using this common infrastructure.
It's fungible, like a commodity. May I say,
Correct.
like oil.
Yeah.
You can put it in a drum and send it anywhere.
But
the nice thing,
but nobody controls that source.
Right.
Everybody can have access to it.
Right.
yeah, the nice thing about hydrogen is you can make it from many different sources, so you're not stuck with a single way to get a fuel like we are with oil. And so, you know, we see all the renewables being used to make hydrogen fuel in the future, and maybe some things that nobody's thought of yet that could contribute. So we have so hopefully the U.S. and Hawaii will have a very diverse feedstock set for making fuel in the future.
So in the hydrogen as a stored energy, you know, the benefit of that, beyond transportation, but like everything, what's DOE doing? I mean, what is the vision of DOE on that possibility, on storage?
Okay. Well, you know, we're still kind of forming a vision, and that's why this project on the Big Island is so important. So we can demonstrate that there's technical and economic feasible answer for storage using hydrogen. There's only so many ways and so many places you can pump water to make storage. You know, they use the water and then they use hydropower when needed. In the simpler ways, they're even using compressed air and sticking it in caverns now and then bringing it back out when you need more power. So those are very expensive and not very energy intensive ways of making power. So we want to demonstrate that fuel cells can participate in the energy storage business in a number of different ways, by transitioning over to transportation fuel, by being used for grid management, maybe even used for other products that aren't energy related, so that whoever invests in the technology isn't stuck with, I better sell my power or I'm going to lose money.
So if I'm a young entrepreneur, the young part is impossible, but let's say I think like a young entrepreneur anyway, and I want to get into a business that will somewhere help on this whole continuum of finding energy, putting it in a container, and shipping it somewhere, and maybe making something at the other end to use it, you know, to store it there, or to actually create energy out of it, you know, sort of use it. And I have this idea for a business. Can I come to you? Can we talk?
Sure, but remember, I've been in the government a long time now, so
I'm sorry for you, but
I may not be the right person to consult with on making a profit.
no, but I mean, would you be my partner?
Well, sure. I wish I was a little bit younger. I would go after something like that because it's an exciting field. I think hydrogen storage and fuel cell power is really an exciting place to be right now, all over the world. Really, there's a lot of interest in Europe and Asia. The DoD is very, very engaged in coming up with ways to use hydrogen and fuel cells in their operations, where it's difficult to get fuel all the way across the world to meet their
It
needs.
strikes me that, you say, and everybody says, I mean, the press had written up Hawaii as a great laboratory for renewable energy. It's true, and we have great resources here. But what's interesting is what we learn here is mostly useful here. And we have to find a way to, I mean, if there's going to be a national or international laboratory, we have to find a way to move it from the place it's generated to the place it's used.
Right.
And I mean, transmission lines is one way, but I think you have a certain degradation on transmission lines, and you only get X% of the power at the end of the day.
Right.
But with hydrogen, and I like to know about the degradation in hydrogen, you can put it in that canister and you can move it anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Even in large quantities, across the mountains,
Right.
over the hills, and so it doesn't matter whether the location you're moving it to has its own renewable energy. It can use renewable energy from the place where it's generated, and that would be here. In other words, Hawaii could be an export company, an export location for creating hydrogen as a transportable renewable energy and selling it elsewhere. Is that a ridiculous statement? Do you agree? What would you add to that? Do we have degradation problems?
We
Shipping
don't have.
too
We don't have.
expensive?
Yeah,
What?
I think shipping is going to be way too expensive. So it's a great idea, but as we said, every spot in the world has some form of a renewable energy source. I mean, if you're in the middle of the desert, you got a lot of sun. If you're in the Arctic, you've got these winds that blast through the Arctic all the time. So you can actually harvest whatever your resource is and make your hydrogen. That's why hydrogen is so great. You don't need to transport it from A to B. You can make it right in your own backyard almost, depending on what your source is.
So I guess what I hear you saying is we may not really have to move the hydrogen around all over the place.
I think what we can export though is our intellectual property, the things that we learn from these projects, as a living laboratory, and have this young people coming out of our high schools and colleges, have the entrepreneurial bent to think of products and applications that can use it, and then export that. And for example, we can be a test bed for all the Pacific Islands, and we can have Pacific Islanders coming in here and looking at our systems, seeing how they work, and then taking that knowledge home and applying it in their own country. And we can have our young people, our young entrepreneurs, going with them and guiding them along and helping them with things like permitting to make sure that they treat their environment and don't destroy their own environment, and that they have the right regulations and safety rules, and know how to handle this thing.
So Pete, is that part of what you see? I mean, that Hawaii is the kind of place that could actually export IP and best practices? Don't give me your answer right now.
Okay.
You have 1 minute to think about it. Tick, tick, tick. This is Think Tech and Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here on Energy Wednesday. We're talking about Washington. Now, Washington cares also about fuel cells in Hawaii, with Pete Devlin of the DOE and Mitch Ewan of the HNEI between Ward and Cook Street. Right?
On Cook
Okay, we'll be right back after this break. Hey, we're back. We're live. We're Think Tech. We're back. We're live. We're Think Tech here on Energy Wednesday. Hawaii, the state of clean energy. Talking about Washington and how Washington also cares about fuel cells in Hawaii, with Pete Devlin of DOE, the Fuel Cell Technology Office Deployment Program Manager. For those who haven't heard it before, that means FCTODPM. At dinner, my wife and I speak of little else. Okay, and Mitch Ewan of HNEI, Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, which is somewhere between Ward Avenue and Cook Street.
Our facility is, yeah.
Okay, and as we left this exciting discussion, before the break, we were talking about the export of intellectual property and best practices, and we wondered, we wondered what the special nature of the relationship that Hawaii has with DOE. I mean, how does it distinguish itself? How do you see us as a place that could export what we're learning here?
Well, from what I do, it's all about capturing best practices, case studies on what we learned in Hawaii projects, and then spreading the word around the rest of the country so that it could be replicated in other places. So that's really the real value here, is you guys are willing to take the chance on advanced technologies and different ways of using them. And when we see some success and some good empirical data, we want to get it out to everybody else and say, hey, look, you ought to check this out and try it. Go out to Hawaii and talk to Mitch Ewan and find out what he's doing.
Well, we do have a lot of people involved in the Clean Energy Initiative. We have the Energy Policy Forum has 47, must be 50 already.
Yeah, I think so.
50 constituent organizations represented from all walks of energy. And they work on a consensus basis, and they get along, believe it or not. I think it has a lot to do with food.
Yes,
Free
lunches,
always a
yeah.
sandwich around.
Yeah, nice lunches, yeah.
But, I think what we have here is so many possibilities. I mean, they say that Hawaii is the picture of diversity. So you could name every single kind of renewable energy. We got it. We got it all, including some of them that nobody else has. Like geothermal, that's not very easy to find.
Yeah.
But the problem, and I mean, I know that it's hard for you to give advice, but why not? We'll ask you and see what you say.
All right.
We have so many of these things. Sometimes we don't know which one goes first. We don't know which one to put the stress on. We don't know which one to incentivize. We have a big issue in the legislature right now, today, as we speak, over the continuation of the solar tax credits for PV and all that. So you have from the national point of view, what should we be doing to find our way among all these possibilities?
Well, I guess I'd like to say that you should do what you're doing now. Keep doing it. It's like Edison said, technology success is one part inspiration and 99 parts perspiration. So this is not easy to do. And if you have the energy and the will, and you seem to have a lot of that here in Hawaii, you eventually break through and are successful. It's not easy stuff. I hope you guys continue to push hard and break through on some of this stuff and be an example to the rest of the country.
Something you said really touches me. You mentioned Edison, and recently I saw this. I mean, he's one of my heroes. It's this documentary on Nikola Tesla, who was Edison's competitor back in the turn of the 20th century. And I think everybody agrees that Tesla was a little crazy. And maybe you've got to be a little crazy. You have to be the combination of methodical and scientific, laboratory, everything written down, white coats, but then you have to be a little crazy as an entrepreneur. And Tesla did things that Edison didn't do. In a funny way, he was ahead. He was doing wireless before Marconi. And were it not for a fire in his laboratory, in Tesla's laboratory, he would have been ahead of Marconi. Anyway, I guess my point is that, and I'd like to know if you agree, is that in this tumultuous world, take a page out of de Tocqueville, in this tumultuous world of renewable energy, you have to be not only methodical, not only scientific, but you have to be willing to take risks in science and risks in business. And that's the way we're going to find out the unknowable, or what we don't know yet. Am I right?
No, absolutely. This anything new in energy technology is risky. And so you have to be willing to take risks, and you have to be willing to persevere when it doesn't look very good. You take it all the way to the limit, and if it doesn't work out, it's not because of lack of trying. So that's what that's what I would think would be the most advantage out here in Hawaii is diligence, risk taking, and just really taking it all the way to the limit.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the other point is that it costs money to do this. People have to be willing, ratepayers and taxpayers and the public, if they're going to go on this great adventure with us, they're going to have to be willing to pay for that, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
They can't have it, you know, I always say that we started out with the Clean Energy Initiative in 2008 with the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, and a few years later we got into the Cheap Energy Initiative. Where everybody says, I don't care what the technology is, I want it cheap, which is really not the way. We can't get home that way. Thoughts?
I think willpower has a lot to do with it, and I think the state showed a lot of leadership when they voted in the hydrogen fund back in, I think it was 07 or 08.
Yeah, I remember that.
Same
Sure.
You know, and that was quite a lot of money. It was originally $10 million. It got watered down to 8.7, but I think that really helped get some of these hydrogen and renewable energy projects here to Hawaii, because what we needed was cost share, you know, and you know, it takes you know, it's okay for a $50,000 project to use some creative financing, if I may call it that. But when you're buying these big multi-million-dollar systems, I mean, that doesn't work. I mean, you actually have to have cash on the table to supplement or leverage what the U.S. DOE is willing to put in here. I mean, they give us the, you know, enough to, you know, make it interesting, and then we have to come up with the rest. So, for example, my project on the Big Island, you know, Pete came in with the seed money and the idea to start this project, and we were over, you know, a couple of years, we were able to collect additional funds from the state. They're in it for a significant portion. Private industry has supported it. The county of Hawaii has supported it. So, you know, overall, we've raised over $5 million based on an initial $2 million investment by Pete. So that's what we need to do, and we need to figure out how to do it, not let any barrier, you know, if there's a barrier, we either have to go through it, over it, under it, or around it. You know, we just have to keep it moving forward. We have to be smart about the projects we pick. We don't want to, you know, we want to do enough analysis at the front end so we don't pick a loser, right, going out of the gate. But if it looks promising, then we got to get down that road and get it done and go through all the things we have to do, environmental assessments, the permitting, you know, the legal agreements, you know, and these are hard because this is new. People are not familiar with it. Lawyers are, you know, they're there to manage risk for their clients, and if they don't know about it, they're going to take a long time to look at all this stuff if we don't have a trained legal profession. So
that's right. You got to educate the lawyers.
We have to educate your
we have to have a show about that sometime.
Yeah, exactly. and that's how you get it done. And then, you know, when you get a success, then tell people about it. But don't talk about a success before you have it, because then if you don't make it, then
we have to educate the public relations people too.
You've hurt your credibility. You have to be credible in this game.
Well, you know, one thing about credibility is the nod. I call it the nod. And when DOE comes around and it does the seed money thing, it's more than the money. It's far more than the money. What it says is we are the national government. We have, you know, enough resource to know what's going on here, and we are giving you this seed money. We are giving you the nod. We are saying we believe in you, and other venture will follow because the government has spoken. I mean, there's huge leverage in there. I'm sure you deal with that every day.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a lot. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I hear the music playing.
Okay, Peter. Well, thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate
Thank you
you
so
having me
much for
on.
coming on the show.
Yeah,
Mitch,
my pleasure.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great, you guys. This is Think Tech Hawaii, talking about the state of clean energy. Tomorrow we'll be doing Asia in review. Come back and see us then. Aloha.
Mm-hmm.